Hey everybody, this is Ryan Daniel Moran, and this is the Freedom Fastlane Show. Today I'm really excited to introduce you to Rachel Rofe. Rachel is somebody that I personally have been wanting to meet for a long time now, because people have been saying that we're going to get along famously, and indeed we do. Rachel is someone who is extremely successful, yet very humble and incredibly giving. She has an absolute servant's heart, and that's probably why she has been so successful. Rachel has built several million-dollar businesses, and she started off in retail. She just made a few decisions about 8 years ago that have led to massive success. As you're listening, pay attention to the very small changes that Rachel makes in her life when she decides to look at a situation that is empowering rather than defeating, when she decides to take some risks, and when she decides to get out of a relationship when she sees that it's not serving her, or when she decides to make a change in her life in order to reach a different destination in a couple of years. She's really good and very decisive about making small changes in her life that yield huge results. If you pick nothing else up from this interview with Rachel today, make sure you pick that up. Rachel is an absolute servant. She's a joy, and yet she is humble and a little bit even shy. She lives in New York City, so there's a little bit of hustle and bustle in the background, but if you can put up with that, I think you'll get a tremendous amount out of today's show. Let's roll into the show. Hey everybody, this is Ryan Daniel Moran, and today I am joined by somebody that I'm really excited to get to know better. I'm joined by Rachel Rofe, who is a best-selling author. She's been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, Woman's World, Fox News. She's been online since 2006, written over 40 Kindle books, created over 30 products, bought and sold companies that have had over 100 employees. Pretty much she's a freaking rock star is how we need to describe her here on Freedom Fastlane today. But we're here to talk to her about joy and happiness. She has a book called Never Have a Bad Day Again and is considered one of the happiest women on the internet. So Rachel, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
It will be. Rachel, for those of you who don't know you very well, myself included, why don't you give us a little bit of background about what you're all about and your story?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start with basically I used to be in retail before I did the internet marketing thing. I started as a cashier. I worked my way up to management, and I just remember when I was 23, I was working at Target. I was a manager. I was making like $55,000 a year, and I thought it was so much money at the time. And it is a lot of money. I just thought, like, at 23, it's not going to get better than retail, and I didn't like it because I was going to school like I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. I was going to school full-time, doing a ton of stuff. And I remember sitting with the other managers in our offices and basically just talking about how much we hated our lives. Awesome. So I just started doing the online marketing thing for fun. So I was doing it as an eBay power seller for a while, and I was testing out different things. And eventually I started doing this affiliate marketing thing, and I came across one of these offers on Craigslist that was basically like, make $1 million in your underwear doing nothing. and so I bought it, and the whole premise was promote our program and you'll get 50% commissions. And so I did that, and I was making between $500 to $800 a day, like my very first day, for about a month onwards. Nuts, right? So
what you're saying is that everyone should go buy things on Craigslist that talk about working in your underwear, and we'll all be successful.
Exactly. That's the secret to success, right? So yeah, I did it, and it worked, and eventually it didn't work. But it got me out of retail. I decided if there actually was a way to make money, and it didn't have to be retail, because I would even go and apply to all these, like, even secretary jobs, and here I am with a college education, and no one wanted to take me. I just thought I was stuck in retail forever. So that's it.
A lot of people are really curious, how was that product generating $500 to $800 a day? Were you putting up ads for something in an old method that doesn't work anymore, or?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I was posting on Craigslist constantly, not necessarily proud of it, but it's what I was doing. I remember like every hour on the hour I would go to all these different cities and I would post about it. I was in a flag football team. I thought it'd be a good way to meet guys years and years ago. And I remember like running on the field and just thinking like, oh my God, I got to post on Craigslist. Like, I missed an opportunity. So yeah, that was the story. Not my style now, but I'm grateful for the time period.
Well, back in 2006, 2007, there were a lot of those, dare we call them hacks, like things that you could hustle and make a lot of money doing it. That now it's moved towards having legitimate businesses, which is a good thing. But you kind of made a transition. A lot of people will go for the quick hit, and then they are scared that the quick hit is going to go away, and then when it goes away, they get sad and freak out. You actually turned what was a little bit of success as an inspirational moment into building a career. How'd you make that transition?
So I was doing the affiliate marketing thing, and it was interesting because it was 2006 when I was doing the Craigslist, and then I got on some marketers lists, and they would have all these emails about, oh, you can make millions doing AdSense or millions doing this. And I started to stop doing the Craigslist thing, thinking that all these people had better ideas. And interestingly, my income was plummeting because I was focusing my focus was in a million different directions. Yeah. So it's one of the big things I talk about now is to just keep yourself focused on one thing. But during that time period, I just learned a whole bunch about a bunch of different business models. And so I created an info product. Baby shower favors was my first info product. And I had a lot of feast or famine income for a while, so I just started to do copywriting. I've always loved I've always loved writing and listening to people, and I'm naturally really empathetic. So copy was a good fit, and it helped me kind of stabilize my income while I learned other things.
So you had a skill that you developed that allowed you to be marketable while you developed other skills and wrote Kindle books and created products and did all those cool things.
Yeah, and I have coaching clients now that are saying it's an Earn 1K coaching group that I have where the goal is to earn $1,000 their first month, and I always tell them it's just so much better, I feel like, to start out with services, get some solid, reliable income, and then branch out to other things if you really need the money, because everyone can maybe write articles or do blog installations or something. Everyone has something that other people can get value from.
Yeah, I like this story because it's a classic. You learned a skill, started marketing it, and then just grew your persona and grew your brand more and more so that you had more and more followers, and then more people started paying you for coaching, and it started to blossom and grow. A lot of people think that there's like an overnight button that you hit and all of a sudden you're free. But you just got a service that you were able to pay the bills with, and then your business started to grow and evolve from there.
Yeah, I tried to be strategic about what I was doing. So when I worked with copywriting clients, I would try to work with people that had lists that I could partner with, or I would sometimes, if I was doing my own products, I would have joint venture, different prizes and stuff for people that were top partners, and I would give free sales letters and all this stuff. So I definitely helped use my skills to strategically go to. But yeah, it definitely was not overnight. I remember sitting with one of my friends 2007 or something, and sitting at Starbucks and just crying, bawling my eyes out because I was so freaked out about how I was going to earn money. I was on a cross-country road trip at the time. I didn't even have money for hotels. I was sleeping in my car because I just thought it would be fun to go to the Playboy Mansion. So I wanted to go there, and it was just nuts. It was a crazy time period, but it was definitely that service really helped stabilize me.
Now, so it wasn't all roses on the way to growing, and I know that in your personal life it hasn't always been roses, but I have heard you dubbed as the happiest woman on the internet, and people have told us that we must get along and probably blow up a building because our happiness together would be too much for the building to handle. My guess is that you went through some sort of a transition. You went through some sort of a point in which you had, dare I say, an awakening, and I'd like to hear about that if I'm right.
That's interesting. I don't know if there's a defining moment, but I've definitely had moments really tough times that another tough time will happen and I'll be even more aware it all happens for a reason. Another tough time, I'm even more aware, and I start to now just when these things happen, it's just okay, what am I learning here? I'm not even going to bother being a victim about it. It's just there's obviously a message that I'm being given. So, yeah, I don't know if there was like a one kind of moment. Like when you were saying about stuff with the personal life, like I had a year, like 2012 it was, where I was married, I was annulled 7 months later, broke up with my business partner, moved 3 times, I had a whole bunch of health issues, just like one thing after another after another. And then I remember like going through that, just like I know that there's a message here, I know that there's something that's going to help take me to the next level, and it all has, it's all been amazing since then. So yeah, I don't know that there's one big thing.
Yeah, well, it's been the same for me, where you go through a challenge and you get a lesson out of that challenge and you continue to grow from there. It's kind of like business in a way, where you make mistakes and then you grow, and then you make mistakes and then you grow. And I think where most people miss out on some of the joys in life is seeing things as happening to them rather than happening for them as an opportunity for them to grow. But it's the same in business and in life. You go through challenges, you grow from them, or you can be defeated by them. You can go out of business, or you can make adjustments and grow even bigger. You can feel defeated by a setback, or you can use it for personal growth and be happier and wealthier and enjoy even more out of life. I think it's the same in on both hands.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really do. And one of the things, I guess, sort of, not really, maybe it would classify as an awakening, but I had a very crazy kind of childhood, and I started years later starting to have these memories of these things that happened when I was younger that I totally like shut down in my unconscious, and I would just have these like hyperventilating moments where they'd start to surface. And I had these times where it's like, I can be a victim, but I choose to look at it like having a traumatic childhood was more for, I feel like I'm here to inspire people. That's what I get most excited about. And it's like, of course, like all this stuff would have to happen so that I could persevere through them and then inspire people with them, That's
fantastic. And that's a great segue, because you had hard times in business and in personal life. 2012 was an extreme challenge for you. And then you wrote a book called Never Have a Bad Day Again. not long after that. So how were you able to have that focus during a bad time, and what inspired you to write that?
I mean, it's not always like I'm 100% happy all the time. Of course, I feel like you need to feel your feelings. But I think it's just a overall great faith that everything that happens is happening for a reason. Because the thing is, even if I'm wrong, like, isn't it just more empowering to feel like that's the truth? So that's kind of how I look at it, that everything's going to happen for a good reason. So, and I just, as I said, I just feel the best when I'm inspiring people. I feel like that's something that comes really naturally to me when I'm talking with people, just helping them see that they have a choice in their life. And I just felt like it was something that I could really do to give people a piece of me.
And when you tell people that they can never have a bad day again, what types of strategies or what types of perspectives are you helping them shift to see so that they get the bigger picture and they realize that they're in control of the state that they're in?
So there's a bunch of different things that I put in the course, because I know lots of different people have all different types of learning styles. Like, one of my favorite things that I do in the course is a choose your own adventure kind of thing. So it's basically like I'll give a story, and I'll tell you one of them now, but I'll give a story, and then I'll give like 3 or 5 different ways that people can choose to respond to them. And I'll say, what about you? Like, think of 5 more ways. Because I just really want people to see that we normally act out of our subconscious, this, just whatever the normal reaction would be from childhood, whatever. It's just we naturally do it. But we can, I think the greatest, I guess, enlightenment is when you can come to any kind of situation and instead of knee-jerk response, just realize that you can choose how you want to respond in that moment. So, like, one of the choose your own adventure stories is paint the scenario, like you're running late for work, you're going through the drive-thru, Starbucks or something, and your order's like $4.03, and you're fishing for 3 cents, you're trying to find them in your car, and you're already freaking out, you're running late for a meeting, and the guy behind you starts honking his horn because he wants you to hurry up. So then the scenario is like, what are you going to do in response? Number 1 could be like flip him off. Flip him off. 1 could be to take a deep breath and get over it. 1 could be to send him love and actually decide that you're going to pay for his order behind him and just like meet him with love. And then the whole way back to work, just like daydream about how you've completely probably thrown him for a loop, pattern interrupt. So like, there's just so many different things that you can do to respond. And I just want people to really get that, you know?
I love that. I never thought of the idea of making a list of how you're going to respond. I like to think of myself as fairly self-aware in the sense that when I feel an emotion, I can deal with it and handle it. But the idea of saying, how could I make somebody's day with this even, is an interesting one. I like that a lot. What else do you tell people?
So there's the choose your own adventure things. Then there's just like one of the sections is 7 ways to improve your mood in 5 minutes or less. And they're just different things. For example, one thing that I think is huge is just if you're feeling upset about something, to just change your state, like jump up and down, move yourself up and down, shake around, because our bodies, like they'll get captured in whatever state we're feeling, and if we can shake it out, then it brings in a flash of perspective really quickly.
Imagine Tony Robbins saying, make your move, say yes, and running to the front of the stage.
I have not, I mean, Tony Robbins.
Oh, well, it just sounded very Tony Robbins-ish, what you just said, of changing your state, because he'll yell, make your move, and everybody yells yes, and we all get pumped up, and we all feel better. I now picture Rachel Rofe running around her New York apartment saying, yes, yes I can. But you're right. I noticed this in, I do improv for fun, and if I'm feeling nervous or if I feel like there's junk in my day, I can't perform on stage, so I will jump up and down and shake around to kind of shake it off, and all of a sudden I have this new energy, and it's like, let's go, where's the stage?
Yeah, first of all, it's amazing that you do improv. I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I'm going to sign up. I just signed up for voice lessons, and improv is next. I've just been traveling so much. Yeah, it sounds amazing. And yeah, I did this, like last year I was in this mastermind group, and we were doing a power exercise. And so the exercise was to create a feeling of liberation, or to create a feeling of whatever you want people around you to feel. And the thing that I wanted them to feel was liberation. And so I thought that I would start out giving kind of my transformation story, where I talk about like some of the things that happened in my childhood, and then tell them about basically how I was able to get through it. But as I was in the middle of like some like super crazy stuff, I guess the practitioner of the exercise like switch, like do something new. And so I'm like telling all those people this traumatic stuff, and the mood, it was just, I mean, super somber. I never got to go the other way. And I'm just like, crap, how am I going to change the mood? And I started doing like a visualization exercise, and it was kind of working. Like the exercise was people would have to stand up if they started to feel that feeling. So I got a couple of people standing up, but then I've like, but not that many people. And one person was just like, you know, I feel really terrible, like hearing what happened to you. And I'm like, okay, I've got to reset here. So I thought, and I was like, all right, everyone up, jump up and down, move your state, move around. And then I ended up getting like 95% of the room to stand up just through changing their state that quickly.
That works.
Yeah, it totally works. And so other things in there are just like even just basic physical needs, like making sure that you get enough water and enough sleep makes such a big difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, I've got a question for you. There's a lot of people in our little space. You mentioned that you were on a lot of marketers' lists, that you were, like when you started out, you had this method that worked, and then you got on marketers' lists and started studying what they did. And there's kind of, well, at least in like the business opportunity, people who are saying that you can make all this money on the internet and you can have an internet business, there's like this perception of what everybody is, that everybody kind of has it all together and everybody is solid and they live this amazing life. And then a lot of them, you get to know them and they're not like you and me. They're not really happy with their lives. And I want you to address that. Where do you think that dissatisfaction comes from, even when people seem to have it all, and what they can do in order to shift that state so that they're approaching things in this type of a way? Because my perception of you right now is that you happily achieve, and that you are able to address new projects and take things on happily, and doesn't seem like you get overwhelmed. You have over 40 books, you have 30 products, you've been featured all over the place, you've bought and sold companies, and it doesn't seem like it bogs you down. And I'm really curious how you handle all that, while other people find it to be a struggle to even take their first step in building a business, or people who seem to have it all and yet don't feel satisfied. That was a loaded question. Go.
Well, a couple things. First, I mean, I've had my periods of overwhelm. Like when I had that company with 120 contractors, it was crazy. It was super, super stressful. But luckily, I just put myself around people that could help me get everything organized and figured out systems. But I don't know. I guess there's a couple of questions. So the first thing I'll say is that I've noticed, like, whenever I start to feel anything that's less than like good, I'll just start to inventory why I'm feeling that way, where it's coming from. And usually, like, I find that there's two kind of cures for this kind of thing, like if I'm not feeling well. Number one is I'm not getting enough pleasure in my life. So I have a brand that I'm going to start creating. I just bought the domain followthepleasure.com, and it's basically just like, do something that makes you happy. Like, it's not fun to sit in front of a computer for hours and hours. Yeah. So even yesterday, I noticed my energy was starting to get lower, and I'm talking to a friend now. We're having a pleasure duel. And so I went to go get a pedicure, and there was a great massage chair, and it's like, oh, back to reality, just getting back in my senses, or go for like a nice meal or something where it's just like bringing something nice back into life. That always seems to be a great equilibrium. Or also just like connection with people is also, I just saw an article today on Facebook, and it was saying about how Japanese people can be these like chain smokers eating burgers all the time, but so many of them live to over 100, and it's because they have this connection, which is really, really important.
Well, a lot of us who work behind computers that don't have that connection, that we're entrepreneurs, we have a hard time disconnecting from work. I'm sure you've had that before, where you can go out to a nice meal, but it's difficult to kind of not be thinking about your sales funnel in the back of your brain. So I like what you're saying about have connections and follow the pleasure. But how do you do that in practice, you personally?
Well, it's just, I'll notice in my body if I'm not feeling good, if I start to feel tight, if I start to get cranky, to just leave. And I get like wanting to be working all the time, and I had my workaholic phase and all this, and I now look at it like it's better for the business if I walk away, because I'll be able to come with the new ideas. So like I can look at it like that, which helps, because then I'm not thinking that I'm losing anything. And I know that there's a point in diminishing returns when you start to get a little like tired with what you're doing, and you're feeling like you're at the computer for so long, you're not bringing in your best energy. And I also know, because I've had the 4-hour work week, like I don't have it right now, but I've had it with companies that I've sold, that when you're working just a few hours per day versus these long 16-hour days, you can make it so that your work is just so much better. You're bringing in so much more liveliness and energy, and because you're getting all these perspectives from actually going through and living life, you can just make so much more amazing stuff happen.
I found that when I'm traveling, when I only have a couple hours to get things done, my work just seems so much better. Yeah. And it just seems so much more effortless. And the idea of taking on big projects seems rather easy to me, whereas if I'm home in front of a computer after a day, doing one more thing just sounds like a chore. Is there a way we can bottle that? Can we bottle the feeling of being on a trip and everything being effortless into our daily lives when we are building real sustainable businesses?
Yeah, I think it's go have fun outside of the computer. I mean, the reason that travel is so amazing, I love to travel, is I think because you're constantly, you're following your flow. Like, you're doing new things all the time. It's not the same old. You're open to new experiences. That's why I love living in New York City. That's why I moved here. It's like it helps me not need to travel all the time, because I can just walk a couple blocks and see something I've never seen before. And it adds in life and fire. Being at the computer all the time, that doesn't do that. And I think also when you're working less hours and you're having more fun, there's so many benefits to it. But first of all, on your deathbed, you're not going to remember how many hours you're working. You're going to remember the fun parts. But also, you then become more choosy about the things that you say yes and no to, and then your quality of everything works better. You're more in touch with your intuition. You're more in tune with what you actually want to do, because it's so easy to just say yes to things really quickly.
Yeah.
So
I would add in one more thing.
yeah.
A practical step is just to cut out the things that de-energize you. We all might have a friend or a family member that we can't cut out completely. But I just did this inventory of my life recently where I looked at, okay, what projects make me feel de-energized even after I think about them? And which ones aren't in my unique ability? Okay, we need to cut this out, or we need to do something different with it. And even just setting like an exit deadline on them made me feel light and airy and just like I was floating around my house, because all of a sudden I had new space to fill in exciting things. And I didn't know what they were, and that was a little bit scary, but just the idea that new stuff could be coming into my life and providing new adventures and excitement was exhilarating to me. I don't think I've ever felt more like myself than right after I started to cut out those things that didn't serve me to welcome in those things that did.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, and it makes me think about, like, Tim Ferriss talked about how he feels like busyness is the new laziness. It's because you just don't, like, when you're super busy all the time and you have a million things going on, you don't create any space to go through and actually inventory, like you said, or go through and think about things or live life. And so it's just like going on the computer all the time, tunnel vision, work, making yourself out to be a victim because you have all this work, when just like you said, if you take time to shut down what's not working for you and open space to become the next iteration of yourself, it's just fantastic.
Amen to that. You mentioned Tim Ferriss, and you brought up the 4-Hour Workweek in passing, and I got into a discussion with someone recently who said, you can't live the 4-hour workweek, the proverbial 4-hour workweek, and make a difference. You can't live an integrated life and only work, a handful of hours. And while you go through periods where you're having fun and periods where you're working really hard, I think you are a great example of a fantastic balance there, where you have grown a personal brand that continues to grow and flourish. And sometimes you work a lot more, and sometimes you are able to disconnect and say, you know what, I'm going to go move to New York, or I'm going to go travel the world. And it doesn't detract from the overall growth of the business. In fact, it might even enhance it, because you have that strategy of being able to be more effective when you're traveling.
I think so. And like, to that point, I remember when I was doing the 4-hour work week, I had a membership site. I lost 100 pounds, and so I had a membership site teaching how I lost the weight. And I had amazing assistants who were running it, and they actually, one of the gals refused to accept payment because she was so in line with the vision that she just, every time I tried to pay her, she wouldn't let me. I didn't even know her PayPal address. I had that actually several times throughout the years where people wouldn't take money. But later on, she needed money for something, so I was happy to donate. But anyway, so the work that I had created through that membership site, people were losing weight left and right. And so it was kind of creating like I don't want to say a legacy, but something where it was sustaining and it was making a difference daily. So in my work, it was making a difference, but also I could just go through and then like maybe make a difference through work. I feel like I was, but even if I wasn't, even just traveling and doing different things, smiling at people when you're walking by, that's making a difference.
Yeah, I like to call them just lifelong ripple effects of you making one little small difference, and you have no idea how that might come back to affect someone else. I was mentoring a young guy a couple of years ago, and who knows out of his growth who he'll meet or who he'll marry or how his kids will be affected and how their kids will be affected just by something that I said or something that he learned from me as a result of that mentorship. And I agree with you. We kind of make that difference on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm forever blown away at like little stories. Like I might have when I was married and annulled, I had a blog post about it. And even years later now, people will tell me that they sent that blog post to like their son because they felt like he was in a relationship where he was settling, or they got out of a relationship because of it. Or, I mean, it's crazy how many ways we can, just as long as we're like being the best version of us that we can be, we're making a difference.
Yeah. Rachel, how do you get so much done? I mean, I know we've talked about productivity while you're traveling and happily achieving, but I didn't know about the membership site where you lost 100 pounds or were teaching other people. And before we hopped on this call, I didn't know that you had a company with 120 employees. I've known about your Kindle books and your copywriting, but the more I learn about you, the more that I know you have going on. How are you able to handle everything? Is it just because you're a woman and you can multitask and that overwhelms my brain, or what?
Oh, I hate multitasking. I think that's so bad for you.
I agree. So how do you do it?
Well, I think the 7 to 12, working 7 to 12, like that's when I'm at my best, because every one of those minutes are just power packed. It's not like spending time on Facebook or anything like that. It just get down to business and then get off the computer. And like you said, when you're traveling, you can make that happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's really helpful. But in practical steps, it's just figure out like all the things that are going on, and I like to just do whatever is going to be the toughest thing first thing in the morning to get it done with, because that's when I have all my energy, or the most energy, and then just go from like hardest thing down. Only work on things that I feel like are either going to be they're going to make income, or they're going to help, or like they're working towards some goal. And I guess I should also back up and say, like, what I do is I look at what I want to accomplish, let's say like a year from now. So what I teach is, let's say like someone decides they want to make $10,000 a month. So they know that that's their year out goal. Then they break that down into like 6 months out what needs to be done. So maybe it's 500 people paying $20 a month. So then the daily to-do lists become, so it's $500 or 500 people, $20 a month. What would need to be done? We would need a sales letter. We would need an offer. We would need yada, yada, yada. And then the daily to-do list become breaking down, like, today I'm going to do the sales letter, or today I'm going to build this aspect of the site, that kind of thing. So this way you're constantly working towards one great goal, and it's like you're always focused on one thing, which I think is really helpful. If you chase two rabbits, both will escape.
That's very true. I do something similar in which I look at what my goals are, and then I just ask myself the question, okay, how can I do this now? And when I think of what do I need to do now in order to make this happen, all of a sudden things jump out at me. It's like, oh, I need that sales letter. Oh, I need this done. And that's how I've always been most productive, is when I'm able to identify the things that are most pressing, that'll make the biggest difference in that jump. And when I ask, how do I do that now, they kind of leap out at me, and it's easy for me to see the steps that I need to take to make it happen.
Yeah, I love that. Evan Pagan talks about something similar where he says that, and I love this, like, how can I make it inevitable that, like, how can I make it inevitable that this happens now, kind of thing. And it's amazing if you let your mind answer the questions, what comes up.
Yeah, I love it. Rachel, where can people find out more about you? Where can people connect with you? And where can people, I guess, find that message of never having a bad day again?
Well, my main blog is rachelrofe.com, just RACHELROFE. And then neverhaveabadday.again.com is where that course is.
Cool. Anything they should know about Never Have a Bad Day before they head there and get it?
Anything they should know? I don't know.
Once you read it, you'll never have a bad day again, and everyone will love you, and all your wildest dreams will come true.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, Rachel, you're a rock star and humble at the same time, and I really admire that about you. So thanks for coming on and hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
I hope you enjoyed today's show with Rachel Rofe as much as I enjoyed making it for you. She is the sweetheart of the World Wide Web, for sure. You can find her at rachelrofe.com or neverhaveabadday.again.com. And you can find me, Ryan Moran, at freedomfastlane.com. In today's show, Rachel and I talked a lot about having online businesses. We talked a lot about time management. We talked a lot about travel. And as luck would have it, I talk a lot about that on my blog at freedomfastlane.com. I'd recommend that you go there and enter your best email address to get one of our free reports. and we'll get you on the path to living a life that is extraordinary. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon.